And joining me tonight, Nupur Sharma, national spokesperson of the BJP, Dr. Anand Ranganathan, author, Waris Pathan, national spokesperson, Atiqur Rehman, Islamic national spokesperson of the AIMIM, Atiqur Rehman, Islamic scholar. But my first question goes to Lokesh Jindal, leader of the Congress party. And Lokesh Jindal, Sharad Pawar, alliance partner, holds the same view as the Congress party, especially because he made this statement at a time when he was addressing the minority cell of a political organization. So I want to ask you, is this because of the audience that he made a statement like this? Because Vivek Agnihotri says that he had complimented him for the film earlier when he met him in person.
Good evening, Navika. I would say that Mr. Sharad Pawar was absolutely right, or rather too lenient on Vivek Agnihotri. I would support him, and I would go on to the extent to say that Vivek Agnihotri must be prosecuted under Section 505 of the Indian Penal Code for spreading hatred and violence amongst Indians. When we are talking about UAE and other countries who are clearing the film without any form of a censor board clearance, what are we doing? We are making a mockery out of our country in front of foreigners. Are foreigners going to decide what are we going to watch or not? Is our unity at the hands of foreign opinion? No. As a civic nationalist, as the idea of India, we must understand that India belongs to all, and any individual for his political, material, economic or any interest.
Mr. Lokesh Jindal, where was your idea of India when Dr. Manmohan Singh was hugging Yasin Malik? Where was your idea of India when the working group set up under Hamid Ansari was recommending that there should be an unconditional dialogue with not just the JKLF but other separatist terrorist organizations which had shot down and killed so many Kashmiri Hindus? Where was your idea of India then, sir? I want to ask you, where was your idea of India when in an affidavit to the National Human Rights Commission you said Kashmiri Hindus left Kashmir out of their own free will? They were not pushed out. Where was your idea of India then? Where was your idea of India when in the 10 years that the UPA government was in power, it never ever remembered these Kashmiri Hindus? Where was the idea of India when Rajiv Gandhi and Farooq Abdullah were being friends and forgot about Hindus in Kashmir? Where was your idea of India then, sir?
Yes. The idea of India does not involve targeting Muslims. Idea of India involves...
Oh, it involves targeting of Hindus? Is that what it involves? Nupur Sharma, is that the idea of India that Lokesh Jindal has in mind? That targeting of Muslims should not be done, which I agree, but then he forgets to remember the Hindus in that targeting.
I never said that, madam.
You said that?
Let me complete. When I'm talking about idea of India, I mean safeguard, giving justice to...
Now hold on. Nupur Sharma is responding to you. Nupur Sharma is responding to you.
Well, justice for one community at the expense and cost of injustice to another. Pretty rich of a definition of justice according to you. Wonder where you got your law degree from. For that matter, Navika, you're absolutely right to hit the nail on its head where you actually said and brought out the point of, Congress affidavit, its affidavit in 1995, uprising the NHRC no less, that Kashmiri Pandits left the valley out of their own volition. Let's not forget that Congress was in power in Kashmir. Farooq Abdullah decided to gallivant in offshore countries, so much so denying a CBI inquiry into a poet's death as well. Congress had its own private personal gains to gain out of the Jammu Kashmir. One, my voice is echoing. Second, he's trying to heckle me. Do allow me to complete my point. Navika, please allow me to make my point. And two, my voice is echoing. Please correct that in your studio. Navika, let's not forget the Kashmiri Pandit cleansing started in 1986 with the Anantnag riots. Perhaps this gentleman needs to have his facts correct. It started because, earlier on in 1984, Indira Gandhi in April 1984 thought it fit that she's going to send back Mr. Jagmohan as the Lieutenant Governor to ensure that Gulshah takes over as the head of the state. So much so that he is the one to have actually allowed the Jammu Secretary secretariat, a mandir to be abolished and a masjid to come in place of that. And he made statements like, Kashmiri Musliman khatre mein hai, Hindu Kashmiri Pandit se hum khatre mein hai.
Ma'am, your facts are all incorrect. You are not informed.
The protest happened.
Let me tell you,
after that,
Anantnag riots were
allow me
engineered by
Navika, he cannot actually heckle me. He needs to go deep into the history. Gul Shah was reinstated. Once Gul Shah was reinstated and a Hindu temple was allowed to be abolished, he allowed a masjid to come in place.
You made your point. Allow Nupur Sharma ji, and after that I'll give you time to rebut. Hold on.
Please allow me.
Yes, Nupur.
Please allow me. Please allow me.
Yes,
Please allow me.
Yes, no.
Is it not true that on 11th July 1989, Jagmohan was recalled from the valley? Is it not true that between July and December, who was the government in center? On December 2nd, 1989, did the VP Singh government come into office? Between the July and December period, you released 70 terrorists and rather dangerous terrorists. On September 14th, Pandit Taplu lost his life. In November 1989, Judge Neelkant lost his life. How? Because he gave capital punishment to Maqbool Bhatt of JKLF, the same JKLF whose chief you were whining and dining when you were in power and center under Dr. Manmohan Singh as the Prime Minister of the country, sir. So perhaps you have a lot to answer to. Fact, Navika, as I said, Hindus do not have any name. Hindus don't have a right. Justice, according to them, is, Musalmanon ki izzat karte raho, Musalmanon ko bachate raho. Hinduon ka naam ki kisko parwa? On an earlier debate, I'm thankful Professor Ranganathan is here with me. It is the truth of this country. Do we remember the names of all Kashmiri Pandits who were killed, mauled, murdered? Do we remember the names of all those who lost their lives in the Godhra train carnage? For that matter, do we remember the names of all Sikhs who were massacred by the Congress party? The reality is, no, we don't. Because only Muslims have a name, we don't have a name. You know what they said? Not in my name, and intolerance and award wapsi. That drama rather would not go for Hindus. Why? Because they would care less about Hindus. As Rahul Gandhi said, Hindus are more dangerous than the banned terrorist organization LET. Perhaps Congress has a lot to answer for.
Let me get in Waris Pathan. Waris Pathan, I want to ask you. It's been 3 weeks. 3 weeks since this film came out. Why does Mr. Sharad Pawar remember to criticize it and condemn its release after 21 days? Because the success has touched a chord with people across the country who've watched the film. And Waris Pathan, I understand that minorities need to be protected, their rights need to be protected, and that's fair. Then what about minorities in different states? What about Hindus in Kashmir who were minorities? What is the case study of Hindus in Kashmir where the Muslims were the majority community and Hindus were the minorities? How have the Hindus been treated, Waris Pathan?
Well, first and foremost, let me tell you, Navika, I am not the spokesperson for Sharad Pawar or the NCP. I am sitting here as a spokesperson for the AIMIM. Now, as per the RTI report which is before the nation, during the 1990, 89 Kashmiris Pandits were killed. Apart from there, 1,634 other faith people were also killed. That is why our party president also requested that let there be an independent judicial inquiry to ascertain what are the true facts. Whosoever has done this, it is condemnable, deplorable. They should get justice. But what is the film doing? At that time, 1990, who was in power? Janata Dal was supported by the BJP. Who was the governor? Jagmohan was the governor, who was made minister by Vajpayee. And why did Farooq Abdullah left? So everything must be inquired. Let there be a judicial inquiry initiated. Now coming to the movie which is released in the country, what is this movie doing? Is it spreading love, affection? No. What we have seen in the social media and every day, what we come to know is after the movie is over, in the theater, young boys getting up, giving calls. Well, Navika, when Nupur was making her point, you were very quiet, silent, Allow me to make my point. I know I come from a very small party, but let me make my point.
But sir, I'm asking you a question which is well within my rights.
After the movie is over, young guys, they get up, and what is the call given? Kill Muslims. Slogans against the Muslims are being given in the theatre. One of the Muslim journalists, noted journalists, written in the Washington Post that she went to watch the movie Kashmiri Files, and within 30 minutes she has to leave the theatre because sloganeering was done against her. She was told to go to Pakistan. And one of the reporters, one of the journalists asked Vivek Agnihotri, will you give the proceeds from the movie to rehabilitate the Kashmiri Pandits? He said, how much have I earned? I haven't nothing. So what has the government done to rehabilitate the Kashmiri Pandits till now?
Received stab wounds, and they are only Hindus. Dr. Anand Ranganathan, why is the ecosystem that the Prime Minister...
What has the government done to rehabilitate the Kashmiri Pandits in the last 8 years or the last 14 years?
Release, इनसे digest क्यों नहीं हो रहा?
Good evening, Navika, and good evening to my fellow.
Digest हो गया, आपसे digest नहीं हो रहा है.
Pathan Sahab, look, I've been waiting for my turn. I didn't interrupt you. I listened to all your lies and falsehoods very patiently. Please spare me and give me at least 2 minutes, please. That's the least. हमारे आपको हमारी दोस्ती का वास्ता. Navika, can I please continue?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Navika, as a very astute, one of the pioneering political commentators, media crooks used to say, Salma quotes Sabrina. Here, Mr. Waris Pathan, with due respect, has quoted a journalist who's being currently investigated for fraud, ED fraud, and embezzling COVID funds. Earlier, she accused the RSS affiliate organization for a heinous crime like a sexual assault on a nun, which was later on proven to be committed by a Bangladeshi immigrant. So this is the whole problem with this false narrative being spread. You have an untruth or a falsehood being propagated in a foreign newspaper that is being done, and that is then taken up by Wikipedia and other organizations, other frivolous magazines, and stated as a truth for years to come. But can I please come back to the issue for which I had prepared what I wanted to say a couple of minutes, Navika, and that issue is on Mr. Sharad Pawar. So please give me a couple of minutes. I'm sorry I was distracted by Mr. Waris Pathan. Look, Vivek Agnihotri's next film should be the Vohra Committee file. And he should invite Mr. Sharad Pawar for the premiere. But Navika, to be serious, Mr. Pawar is what you would call appeasement max pro when it comes to playing the secularism card. Let me explain. By Mr. Pawar's own admission, he concocted a 13th bomb blast in 1993 to secularize the bombers and make it appear there was a bomb blast in a Muslim locality too, in addition to the blast in 12 Hindu localities. Remember also that he was instrumental in setting up the Maulana Azad Minority Financial Development Corporation, among many other schemes that even the Congress was opposed to when they ran the government together. So his appeasement politics is not a secret. What is hypocritical, of course, is that his party is now in coalition with Shiv Sena, that Mr. Pawar has on numerous occasions accused of being anti-Muslim. Tellingly, he slapped a 100 crore defamation suit on Outlook for publishing the Vohra Committee annexures that allegedly described his association with India's most wanted. The case was settled out of court. As to why in a democracy, parts of a government-appointed committee report can continue to be hidden from public remains a mystery. As I said, we were a banana republic from the day we became a republic. Now let me very briefly, 30 seconds, come to this lie regarding the Kashmir Files. Does Mr. Pawar know about the Nadimarg massacre that the film truthfully depicts, where Zia Mustafa lined up 23 unsuspecting Kashmiri Hindus and shot them point blank? Does he know about Girija Tiku, who was raped and cleaved in two by a mechanical saw while she was alive? Does he know about BK Ganju, who hid inside a rice barrel when jihadis came looking for him and his Muslim neighbor informed on him? Ganju was shot dead. Rice laced with his blood was fed to his wife. Does he know about his slogans raised from mosque on 19 Jan 1990? Ralif, Salif, Galif, death to Kafirs, Pandits leave your women behind, Nizam-e-Muftwa, Navika, just 10 seconds. For him to cast aspersion on the film just so that the genocide can continue to be hidden from Indians is the worst form of appeasement. And the first people who should come out and condemn this should be the Kashmiri Muslims themselves.
Well, I want to ask Atiqur Rehman. Atiqur Rehman, this is not the first time Sharad Pawar has made a statement like this. He says, what is the need for Ramayana, Mahabharat? He says, what is the need for the Prime Minister to do Bhumi Pujan of the Ram Mandir? I want to ask you, is this something that can only be said about the Hindu religion? Nothing can be said about anybody else? And is that the definition of secularism? Why can't the story be told by a creative director of a film when he wants to tell a story that it matches with the trauma of the Kashmiri Hindus should not bother politicians in this country at the scale that it is? And I'm asking you once again, minorities should have rights protected for sure. But what about minorities in Kashmir? What happened to them? Who looked after them?
Navika ji, I was patiently waiting for somebody on the panel from my opponent side to tell Mr. Sharad Pawar to go to Pakistan. But nobody did it, thankfully. Only a single reality will prove that the Kashmir Files is a bunch of lies, not only a bunch of lies, but hate and spreading poison. The reality is, the maker, the director, the person who is spreading hate in the name of Kashmir Files needs Y+ security. And the director of a secular film like Firak and Parzania never demanded, never needed any security. Till date, they are freely moving throughout the length and breadth of this earth. Third important point, Navika ji, is herein in the 21st century, the youth are demanding the priorities of the nation shouldn't be a film. The milestones of this 21st century will never be set by the...
Why security? Why plus security for Agnihotri and nothing for the makers of Parzania? Respond. I'm short of time, 30 seconds.
What is his point? The fact that he requires security tantamounts to the fact that there is an extreme fundamentalist ideology which was behind the Kashmiri Pandit exodus, cleansing, and thereafter the threats that even in the recent hijab row, the Chief Justice of the Karnataka High Court received on a video WhatsApp call, for Pete's sake. Secondly, and most importantly, I'm sorry, Mr. Rehman, either you're trying to say that the killing of the Kashmiri Pandits was more secular. No, what are you trying to say? Are you trying to argue that the Kashmiri Pandit cleansing was more secular and his film is more communal? What are you saying? What is your argument that they never died? No, what are you trying to say? There was no exodus and truth hurts you so much that an Islamic country doesn't have a problem. I'll tell you what your problem is, Hindu phobia. Your problem is Hindu phobia.
We've been debating this for 21 days. The only question I want to ask tonight is, what happened to the freedom of speech that was being curtailed in this country, apropos the BJP government at the center? Well, the people who are today fighting for banning of films are the same ones who were doing award wapsi because there wasn't any freedom of speech or expression. Is this hypocrisy at a gigantic scale? Why can't people watch a film, and if the film touches a chord and it is found to be close to the reality of what transpired in Kashmir, do the Kashmiri Hindus not deserve a voice? Not for 32 years, not even now? It's a question that we all, as a society, as a country, need to think about. And is the word secular the most abused word in the Indian political context? That's the question we need to ask ourselves. Thank you very much for joining me on the NewsHour tonight. Good night. Have a safe weekend. We'll see you on Monday.